The First Book of Hemp.
Sinfonie numéro 1.
Tema del segmento: Primo Illuminismo, First Enlightenment. Tonica principale del capitolo: Do, C. Progressione musicale principale del capitolo: cromatica. Suite sinfonico A. 4 crescendo, adagio delle pentole bollenti con struttura ciclica, il catalizzatore della libertà. Recitativo.
Compositional form, chapter, sharp 5. Traditional form, chapter 12. The commander takes advantage of normies. The military commander's grasp on the normies tightened with each passing day, his rule growing ever more severe and authoritarian. Under his command, the Northern King instituted burdensome taxes on the normies, levying fees on their trades and harvests, squeezing the prosperity from their fertile lands. Soldiers were given the power to conduct searches without cause, invading homes and seizing goods under the pretense of security, their presence a stark reminder of the normies' diminishing autonomy. Although the normies were still permitted to voice their grievances, the effectiveness of such protests dwindled, as meetings were often disbanded under various pretexts by the soldiers. The right to assembly remained, but gatherings were closely monitored by the commander's men, who would disrupt any assembly deemed potentially subversive. Arbitrary checkpoints sprang up around the region, with soldiers inspecting goods and often confiscating them without any form of restitution, claiming they were for the greater good of the kingdom. A special currency issued by the commander's treasury was mandated for all transactions, difficult for the normies to acquire, thereby restricting their ability to trade freely. Curfews were imposed as dusk fell, emptying streets that were once bustling with the evening trade and community interactions, now patrolled by the relentless march of soldiers. Public houses and inns, once centers of communal life and joy, were commandeered for use by the commander's troops, stripping the normies of their places of solace. Heavily armed tax collectors, escorted by soldiers, became a common and dreaded sight, their demands often leaving households bereft of essential supplies. The publication of materials critical of the commander or discussing the plight of the normies was subtly censored, with publishers facing quiet threats and mysterious disappearances. Trials, when they occurred, were swift and heavily skewed towards the military's interests, with little regard for justice or fairness. Churches and meeting halls were often occupied during key gatherings, with clergy pressured to advocate compliance and peace under the northern rule. The normies were compelled to quarter soldiers within their homes, sharing their meager food and space with the very enforcers of their oppression. Traditional festivals were still held, but under the watchful eyes of the soldiers, their cultural dances and songs performed alongside a backdrop of silent surveillance. Surveillance was subtly enhanced, unknown informants began to appear within communities, sowing distrust among neighbors and silencing conversations, as no one knew who might be reporting to the commander. The children's education was not spared. Schools were gradually required to teach a curriculum glorifying the Northern King and its leader, reshaping the minds of the young under the guise of standardization. Trade routes were monopolized by the commander's allies, forcing the normies to pay exorbitant fees to transport their goods, further crippling their economic independence. Even the smallest infractions were met with harsh penalties, and the jails began to fill with those who dared to whisper dissent or defy the arbitrary laws, leaving families broken and fearful. Despite the gradual erosion of freedoms and increasing hardships, the spirit of the normies began to stir quietly, their subdued gatherings whispering of resistance.